All right, so we're officially here. Long weekend is over. We're into the work week. It is Tuesday. The Browns play on Sunday. And there's a lot to talk about. So, what I wanted to do today is kind of set the table for what is going to be this week, this season, what the expectations could be, and just talk about some of the more pressing matters, right? And now that we're in week one, I think we're at the time to talk about some of this stuff. So, first things first, Browns play the Carolina Panthers, week one. Usually a very uneventful affair when the Browns play the Carolina Panthers, but this is different, right? This is, I guess, Baker Mayfield's opportunity to play his former team. He might have more, right? Because I don't think anybody thinks that this situation in Carolina is a long-term one for him, unless like he wins like 12 games or something, and then Matt Rule doesn't get fired. But I just wouldn't bet on Matt Rule staying there long enough for this to be a long-term situation. So he's probably going to be a free agent next year. I wouldn't even say probably. He's 100% going to be a free agent next year because I don't see him being franchise tagged either. But Baker's coming to play the Browns. Last time he played, he was on the Browns. It's going to be a big storyline, right? Whenever a quarterback played his last game with a team, comes back, plays against them, especially when they're not like a backup, they're somebody who's been a starter in this league for a while. That's going to be a big story. It's going to be a big storyline. There's a couple of those this week, right? Russ is coming back to play the Seahawks. A lot of these situations. And with that, a lot of talk, right? There's been the Baker Mayfield stuff. I mean, come on. Where he said he hopes to mess up the team. Now, there's been debate on whether that's said. I'm going to keep it real with you. Come on. Y'all know Baker probably said that. He just didn't want it to come out because sometimes he cares about how he comes off and sometimes he doesn't. We know this. We know this ride with Baker Mayfield. Anybody who's been around the team for the last 4 years knows that this stuff just happens around him. The T-shirt stuff, again, this all seems very familiar. Baker Mayfield didn't wake up in Carolina as a new person. He's the same exact dude he was, for better or worse, right? And I'm not here to judge whether that's better or worse or finger wag at Baker Mayfield for doing any of that. I really don't care. I just find it entertaining that he did that or allegedly did that because, it's just entertaining. It's not anything to be actually mad about. But there's that. And then on the other side, John Johnson spoke to the media, and I think he really illuminated some things that a lot of people were in the dark about, right? He said that whatever tension was there when Baker last year is gone by now, so there's clearly tension between the defense and Baker Mayfield last year. We've been trying to say that for a while. People have been in denial about it. That's pretty much a confirmation that that was happening, right? So even though, for marketing reasons, this is going to be marketed as a Baker Mayfield revenge game, it's not just a Baker Mayfield revenge game. You can also look at it as a revenge game for the defense because one of the things I said that kind of facilitated the Browns' need to change the quarterback was last year the problem wasn't that the offense was just bad. That's one thing. You can live with a bad offense. Pittsburgh made the playoffs with the bad offense. It's not that the offense is bad. It's that the offense was bad in a way that made the defense's life way harder than it needed to be. And each time the defense answered the call, well, not each time, but towards the end of the year, specifically, the defense answered the call and the offense kept dropping the ball. What do I mean by Baker did things to make the defense's life more difficult? Baker took a lot of sacks. When you take sacks, you get behind the sticks, you end up in 3 and outs a lot. That's just what happened last year. Interceptions, high. Turnovers, high. There were some things that Kevin Stefanski did that didn't help. But a lot of this was like on Baker, right? Lack of execution, not getting the ball out quick enough, forcing balls into windows, just fumbling, stuff like that, right? And I think, this is just my opinion, I'm not saying I have this from anybody, this is strictly my opinion, I think there became a level of irritation between the defense and the quarterback because the defense felt like it was obvious during practices and games that he was not healthy enough to play. That's their opinion of it. Baker Mayfield felt like he was. One part of this team felt like he was making this team worse and making their job harder. The other one didn't care. Thought he was fine. Where the truth is, I don't know, but the truth kind of doesn't matter in this situation, right? How people feel kind of is what matters now. And if you were the Browns defense, you would probably be upset, right? Because imagine if you're at work, you're doing a great job, but somebody else keeps coming in when they shouldn't because they're sick or something. It makes your life more difficult. Like, just don't come into work. You know what I mean? Like, we've all been in these situations where somebody's made our life difficult trying to power through something when they shouldn't have. And if that's what they felt like happened, that's what they felt like happened. On the flip side, we've all been that dude who is trying to power through something and somebody's telling you, go home. You're not needed. And for some of us, we can go home and feel like we're not needed. For others, that's a hit to our pride. We feel like we could do this. Well, why are you questioning me? Why are you even asking this? And then you get upset, right? Like, I can see both frustrations here, right? But the fact of the matter is that the Browns defense is going to be playing against Baker Mayfield. Now, there's been a lot of talk about who has the advantage in this game. Is it Baker Mayfield because he knows the Browns defense, or is it the Browns defense because they know Baker Mayfield? I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. There's really not that much different between NFL defenses from team to team. There is a reason why defenses always start hotter than the offense, right? We always hear that in training camp, right? Well, the defense is ahead of the offense. No matter what, it's always that. You know why that is the case? It's because defenses don't really change that much. There's 3-4, there's 4-3, and even then, the concepts are the same. The basic cover 6 is cover 6. Cover 3 is cover 3. Cover 4 is cover 4. If you don't know what those terms are, cover 6 is just 4. Cover 4, well, it's a lot to explain. But cover 3 is just 3 deep safeties. Cover 2 is 2 deep safeties. Cover 4 is 4 deep safeties. And cover 6 is 4. Cover 4 on one side, cover 2 on the other. You add those two up, it's cover 6. So, because there's no 6 deep safety. You're not playing 6 deep safeties. It's just 4 on one side, 2 on the other. Cover 4 on one side, cover 2 on the other, right? But these are the same concepts. No matter what the defense is, there's some variation. Some play more man than zone. Some play more zone than man. Some blitz more often. But it's not that different. So, yes, does Baker Mayfield know the Browns defense? Sure. Does that really matter? Probably not. What does matter is the situation Baker Mayfield's in. And I think a lot of people who call themselves Baker Mayfield fans are potentially putting their guy in a really bad situation. Here's what I mean. If I'm just looking at this objectively, right, and I don't have any of the biases or any of my, leanings on this, and you can say and call BS on that because I'm a Browns fan, that's cool. But I'm just trying to tell you like how this looks like from just a pure football standpoint. You have a quarterback playing his old team that knows a lot of his tendencies, a lot of what he likes to do instinctually, because they have practiced and played with him for like 4 years. That quarterback is also in a new system, a system that kind of requires you to hold on to the ball a little bit with the offensive line that's not that good versus a defense that has Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, etc., that also knows his tendencies, that also knows, hey, when the pocket collapses and everything breaks down, this is what Baker Mayfield likes to do more than anybody. I am not a Baker Mayfield fan. I'm not a Baker bro. I'm not anybody who has been – people think I'm a Baker hater at this point because I've just been saying how I feel about the situation. I don't think he's the greatest quarterback in the world. This is not a good situation for him week 1. I can understand from a narrative standpoint why people can think this is a great situation for him. But from a football standpoint, this is not good. If he performs great, he performs great. That's good for him. But if he performs bad, I don't necessarily think this is the funeral. Now, it will feel like the funeral for Baker Mayfield because, people, I'm going to be throwing jokes in too because, why not? But people are going to get their jokes off about Baker Mayfield. But in reality, is this going to be the end-all, be-all for Baker Mayfield? No. If he plays bad in this game, ultimately it was very predictable. It was only not predicted because people don't like the Browns right now because of the Watson trade and really want Baker Mayfield to win. So they're lying to themselves about how good of a matchup this is to Baker Mayfield. This is not a good matchup for Baker Mayfield. If he plays well, that is the exception. And he's capable of being the exception. He's done that multiple times in his career. Consistency is the real question for Baker Mayfield. But this is not a good spot for him. So now if he plays bad, all these people expect him to play good that aren't really fans of Baker Mayfield, they just don't like the Browns right now or feel for Baker Mayfield because he got done dirty, whatever that means, right? They're going to turn on him and trash him for playing bad against what is ultimately going to be probably one of the best, if not the best secondary in football, and an offensive line trying to block Myles Garrett that has no business trying to block Myles Garrett. This is not a good situation for him. That doesn't mean he can't win. That doesn't mean he can't play well. But if I were a Baker Mayfield fan, and I'm not, admittedly, I'm not even close to a Baker Mayfield fan at this point, I would not hype up this matchup as much as y'all have because this could really end up with a lot of egg on their face. And speaking to somebody who has relied on Baker Mayfield as the quarterback for their team, sometimes you end up with egg on your face with Baker Mayfield, and this is how you end up with it. Now, that being said, if he wins this game, good on him. He might have a good year because if he comes out of this situation where it's not favorable at all, plays a good game, and he's consistent, he's going to make a lot of money. He's going to have a good career. Good on Baker Mayfield. I really have no ill will towards the guy. I don't like his fans. Not when they say all his fans. Some of his fans are reasonable, but I don't like the majority of his fans, specifically the people from Oklahoma. But I have no ill will towards the individual himself. But yeah, that is not a good situation for him. But speaking of not good situations, the Browns are in a not good situation with quarterback. Now, again, I've been on record saying Jacoby Brissett is about as good as you can get right now. That does not mean he's great. He's about as good as you can get. I would like Jacoby Brissett over Jimmy Garoppolo or any of these other options. And when my expectation is such, I don't expect greatness in these 11 games. I expect average. I expect whatever the Browns were after 11 games last year with bad quarterback play. I don't think they're going to make a leap. I don't think they're going to be significantly better. I don't think we're going to be buying Jacoby Brissett jerseys. I don't think we're going to be debating Jacoby Brissett over Deshaun Watson. He's not going to play that well. We're all going to be thankful that suspension is up, right? This is going to feel, and I think Browns fans need to understand this. Offensively, this is going to be a grind. We're going to battle out every first down. We're going to battle out every field goal. We're going to battle out every touchdown. It is going to be a grind for every point that this offense can create. This is not going to come easy. This is not going to be explosive. This is not a team that can go down by 21 points at any time. This is a team that's going to have to grind it out. Every point cannot be wasted. You get a defensive touchdown, you have to win that game. Like, we cannot waste any points this year because this is not going to be a high-scoring team. I would be shocked if they put up 21 points on a consistent basis. This is not that type of team for the first 11 weeks. Maybe when Watson comes back, that changes. But for the first 11 weeks, this is not, because all the signs are there. You don't have great wide receivers. You have one good one and a bunch of question marks. You have some question marks at tight end, even though I like David Njoku. I don't know if he's like great yet, right? It's just none of the pieces are in place. You have a good running back Well, we have a bunch of good running backs and a good offensive line, and you know what that usually means for your offense? It's going to be a grinded out affair, right? Every time we get past the 50-yard line, we got to score on those possessions. We cannot waste those opportunities. I want people to understand this is the expectation so that when it does happen, when what is expected or what should be expected happens, we're not sitting here trying to get people fired because Jacoby Brissett's the quarterback or trying to get Josh Dobbs thrown in there too early. We need to understand this is the plan. This is the expectation. You can win football games like this, but it's not going to be super fun or pretty. But you can win games like this because your defense is good enough. Again, we can all say right now 6-5 would be fine by the suspension, but living through 6-5 is different than predicting 6-5. And I promise you, 6-5 won't feel great once we get to the suspension. We'll be panicking. People will be wanting people fired with 6-5. That's just going to be what happens. They're not going to win 8 games in this 11-game stretch. They're not going to win anything more than 7. If they get to 7, we'll feel a lot better. But 6 games, 5 games, they win those amounts, hey, that'll be enough to keep the season alive, but it won't feel like it when we get to that suspension, and we all need to understand that. We need to keep these expectations within reason. We need to keep and understand what these expectations are, because if we get disappointed, we're going to create an environment around this team that might get somebody fired before they really should. Whether that's Stefanski, whether that's Barry, whether that's Van Pelt or Joe Woods or whoever it is. I'm not saying anybody specifically, but I am saying that it's important that we keep perspective on what this team is going to be for 11 games and what we hope this team can be after 11 games. Those are two completely different things. It's why I put those parts of the seasons in different chunks, right? There's part 1, the Jacoby Brissett episodes. Expectations should be different for that. Then there's the Deshaun episodes for the last 6 weeks. But that's the table. That's week 1. That's the table for the season. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.